Welcome everyone to another episode of Sigma Duocast. I'm your host Rick, and this is a very special episode because it's in collaboration with UncleDadTalks podcast, hosted by UncleDad and Just Mike, and you can find them on pretty much any, if not all, streaming services out there. Those of you that have followed my Instagram account or even just the podcast in general, like you would know that at times I collaborate with UncleDad. So if you guys happen to not follow them or listen to them, go do that now. They have so much great content. They have so many wonderful guests, so many opportunities to just get to know different perspectives. Kind of like what we try to do here at Sigma Duocast. So today, this episode, it's basically about a month ago. UncleDad had an interview lined up, and Just Mike couldn't make it. And so anytime that Just Mike can't make it, hopefully you take more sick days, Just Mike, or be unavailable. UncleDad will reach out to me, and I will never turn down an invitation to join UncleDad on a conversation. And so that's just what happened. About, I think around July, beginning of July, end of July, I don't remember exactly when, or end of June, I should say. UncleDad had an interview lined up with Lionsgate's film Boneyard with the director Asif Akbar and Vincent E. McDaniel, and he asked if I wanted to join in. So I will be featuring that interview that took place back in that time on our episode here. Now, if you've listened to UncleDad and you followed them, you've probably already heard this interview because this episode was posted. Again, I think 4th of July weekend. So I've been, with the courtesy of UncleDad, and been privileged to go ahead and play that interview for all you Sigma fans. I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the film, do like a quick review. Not going to be my normal review. And then I'll play that interview, and then we'll wrap it up from there. But again, big shout out, big thank you to Just Mike, UncleDad, and the UncleDad Talks podcast for the opportunity, as well as being able to share this interview with you guys today. So the film is Lionsgate's Boneyard. We now live in an era where we don't have like straight to DVD movies anymore. It's like video on demand. So this film was a very limited release in theaters, but it was predominantly released video on demand on July 2nd. It stars Mel Gibson, Curtis Jackson, Brian Van Holt, Nora Zehetner, and a couple other wonderful actors and actresses. The synopsis of this film is basically an FBI agent, played by Mel Gibson, and the chief of police of Albuquerque, New Mexico, played by 50 Cent Curtis Jackson, are on the hunt of a serial killer known as the Bone Collector. But the chief fears that the killer is actually one of his own officers. Again, I'm going to do this spoiler-free best I can because I'd really want to encourage you guys to check out the film. I don't think I'm going to actually give a rating for the film. Or maybe I will. We'll see. But this is a crime thriller film that is loosely based off the West Mesa murders that happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so I wanted to touch a little bit about that because this happened in 2009. I had no idea that these murders were happening in 2009. Then again, well, oh yeah, I guess I just wasn't really paying attention to news, and plus it wasn't local, so I want to say it got widespread, but it must have been pretty diluted with whatever was going on during that year. But there were 11 women that were essentially, the remains were found. They were dead, obviously. They were buried in the desert, kind of out where there's like new housing development that was happening. But then the way it was discovered is they were creating new housing development. Then the housing, I think that's what really happened. I wasn't really paying attention because the housing market crashed. It was crazy. If you think about 2008 and 2009. So it halted a lot of production in building homes, and a woman or somebody was walking their dog, and dog was started playing with bones that were kind of like disrupted, and then the lady goes and sees what her dog's playing with, and it's bones. She calls the police, and yeah, that's how it all started. So it's actually something to check out if you guys haven't done so. Not a lot of people have talked about this and brought this, so this movie is one of those films that kind of, I don't want to say the first to do it, but it's like in recent times it's kind of new to everyone. It does have to do with a lot of like sex trafficking rings. So one of the biggest takeaways from this film is the message of support that is out there for young women, teenagers, adults, you name it. Like, I think that's like the most critical awareness that the film, that the director and the writer tried to bring from Vincent and Asif, is that even today, it's still happening, even with the advances of technology and stuff. I'm sure it's still happening. So, if you are a, young female, or just, like I said, 20s, 30s, the teens, whatever, be sure to look out for support and, people out there to kind of see if you've seen it, like trying to help, I guess. I don't know how you would go about that, but there's a lot of organizations. You guys can follow Vincent's and Asif's like Instagram. I think they have a couple links on there on how to support and what shelters and things like that for individuals, because that's the big thing from this film. That I took away from it is the awareness of the sex trafficking that was happening and how it led to these murders. And the biggest thing about the West Mesa murders in real life is that it was a serial killing of 11 plus, potentially, including I don't know if it was an unborn or if it was like a baby. But they never found the killer. There was a couple suspects, but they never found a killer. So it's very interesting. So I kind of bring a little bit of that to light, not full detail, not all crazy in depth. I'm not doing a murder podcast, which, that might be some down the road, but it's just kind of to bring a little bit of backstory of what's happening here. You guys can definitely Google it, look into it, read up on it, because the movie is loosely based on that. And the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because the film takes elements of the true crime, the true story, but then they give it their own like narrative. They give it their own story. I read the synopsis a little while ago, which I don't think in the actual crime, the actual events, and there was like police officers that were actually suspected from it, but the film is. Even the ending, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending kind of gives you resolution and not resolution. Hopefully it's not a spoiler, but they don't really give you either or. Again, at the end of the day, what the film tries to accomplish is the awareness of it. And in between that, giving you story of the characters, like you learn a little bit about Mel Gibson's character. It mainly focuses more on the detectives, played by Brian Van Holt and Zora Hetner, and then obviously another detective that's involved or officer. So although it has the big names of Mel Gibson and Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, they're not the big players in the film. They're there. It's good to see Mel Gibson acting again. 50 Cent's great. But definitely Brian Van Holt and Nora, they're the ones that really kind of focus on, as well as I believe the character that Brian plays, he has a daughter, and that plays into things. And again, there's drama because it's a film. They got to give you something. Overall, the film was good. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I did feel like there was more to be said, more to be shown. I don't want to say it's an incomplete film, but it did feel like there's more to it. Again, the ending was, good and bad, I guess. And I think it was kind of interesting, their interpretation of potentially what the West Mesa murders happened. I would like to, there's not much on it. That's why, even when you research the West Mesa murders, because it's still an unsolved crime. And at this point, I don't think, who knows? They're still solving crimes from back then, but it's just so hard to solve a crime that's more than 5, 10, 15 years or whatever. But as a film, it's good. I enjoyed it. What's the rating on it's about an hour and a half film. You can find it on video on demand. It's now available on Blu-ray and stuff like that, so you can purchase it. I found it entertaining. I thought it was pretty good. I felt like there was more to be told. So I don't know if I want to give it a rating. I know like it's averaging right now like a 4 out of 10. I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. Only because there's a lot of threads in terms of story and character development and the overall main story of the film that, like I already said a couple times, it just felt a little incomplete. But at the end of the day, for what it was, the purpose of it, like I told you, my biggest takeaway is to bring the awareness to not only these murders, but also just to that concept of, you know, young women in need. There's no necessity of sex trafficking, and or maybe there's people that are controlling sex trafficking. Like, you never know. It's kind of hard to say how that stuff navigates nowadays. So bringing that awareness and trying to help, I think, was like kind of the biggest thing I can take away from this film. But yeah, overall, it was a good film. I enjoyed it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this interview. Again, this is courtesy of Uncle Dad Talks. It is the interview with Uncle Dad and myself. We are interviewing the director and co-writer in terms of the screenplay and producer, Asif Akbar. And then he acts in the film, and he wrote the initial story and took part in the screenplay, Vincent E. McDaniel. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Uncle Dad here and enjoy.
All right. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing on this lovely, lovely day, first and foremost?
Great.
Very
Thanks
well.
for having us.
Thanks for being here. Because in all honesty, being in your guys' presence, I can already feel the magic. I can feel the energy flowing, and I love it. I'm so excited. So first and foremost, my name is Uncle Dad, and with me this time is not my normal co-host. Normally I have a co-host named Mike, but today we'll have the lovely Rick as well. Rick, go ahead and kick off the show with your studious questions.
Awesome.
Hi, Rick.
How's it going? It's a pleasure to be seeing you guys and talking to you guys. Just seen the film. Fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I wanted to kick off because I found this story to be very interesting, and being that it's based or actually inspired by true events, being the West Mesa murders, and tailoring it to be your own story, I was really curious on what was the process of putting a story like this together. And then on the second half of that, was there any pressure to keep certain things close to the actual events?
It was definitely a journey, and originally the script was developed. The first draft was written by Vince and our co-writer Hank Bird a while back, and I was brought onto it about 8 years ago when I met Vince through some mutual friends in New Mexico, and we collaborated on a lot of films over the years, and this was one of the top on the list of films we wanted to make together. And when he, first told me the story, that's when I came to learn about the West Mesa murders case, and I was horrified and blown away about how, crazy it was and that it's real. And then we actually developed the script more to be inspired from other crime stories as well, along with, the West Mesa murders case was the central, case in the story, but we've taken pieces from different cases to mold this together. And obviously we had to take some creative liberties to make our own story, but the goal was to bring awareness and shed light to these cases. So, hopefully someone could be saved or a case could be, closed, because there's so many open cases, like cold cases like this, as you see from the stats, that are just unbelievable that, they're not investigated more.
I'm curious for Vince, since you wrote on this as well and you're a star in the film, one of the things I've learned talking to so many actors is sometimes it's hard to convey the scene if it doesn't feel truthful. When you write, do you feel yourself writing to be truthful, or do you want it to be how easy it is for you to convey that scene in the actual production?
I'm a truth teller, so
Okay.
I try to stick to telling the truth and then rely on the acting ability to translate it in real time. So our whole goal was to tell the truth the whole time.
I love that. I find that, when movies write truthfully, right, you can get the better product out of it without trying to make it so like a fantasy or whatever, right? Not that fantasy is wrong, but even in fantasy, there's rules that you need to have in writing, right? So I'm curious, when both you guys were working on this script, did you guys find yourself ever getting the most peculiar case of writer's block when writing the story?
Somewhat. I mean, we had to stick with the realism with this story at the style we took, and with so many different characters and things happening in this and side stories and whatnot and subplots. We didn't have too much time to obviously, tell it all
Yeah.
in 96 minutes, but we had to restructure it. It was a little bit non-traditional, the way we uh, normally tell serial killer thrillers. It's more pure entertainment. This one, we obviously had to keep it entertaining, from a
Yeah.
cinematic perspective, but with the cinematic style, we also kind of implemented a little bit of a documentary style where, there's narration with Mel Gibson that's teaching you about these cases and the serial killer stats, and that are just so mind-blowing to hear, that we wanted to focus on the education, that the audience would receive from this more.
I love that. Rick, I know you
What?
brought up something about Mel Gibson, and I'm curious if you want to bring that up.
Oh yeah. So it was a pleasure seeing Mel Gibson. He's one of my favorite all-time actors. Lethal Weapon, he's fantastic. And seeing that he's also a director, what was like? How did how can I say this? How was it working with him? Like, was there collaboration in terms of like also direction every now and then, like to putting his input and
I mean, he was very respectful, and obviously, I'd be stupid not to collaborate with him with his ideas as well. But I mean, he was also very respectful. I mean, and to see him work like that was very inspiring, to know, where he comes from and what he's done. And he's definitely, in my eyes, one of the best directors and actors of our time, and probably in the history of film. But, when he was working with us, it was just like him, working on any other film. He took it very seriously. He contributed his ideas where he felt like, he needed to share them, and we collaborated on debates. Like, it wasn't ever like, oh, I want it this way, so this is what we're going to do, or this is what I think we need to do. It's more like, what do you think about this, or would this work, or would that work, or well, how about we try this? And it was a very nice collaborative teamwork between all of us. And there were times when, yeah, Mel would sit down with a piece of paper and pen and write out, additional lines, or change it up to his own. And the way I work with actors is I like to give them the freedom to collaborate and be artists and not just robots, and a lot of directors will tell actors to say something a certain way, or they have to stick to the script, they have to do this. For me, it's what works, for the film. And in this case, I mean, Mel was very supportive, and he barely ever even went to his trailer. He was right there on set with us by my
Wow.
side, and doing his part as an actor, and then also, being a great partner and collaborator, and just making the best film we could possibly with what we had to work with.
Wow. Vince, I'm curious, you being an actor as well, was there ever like an intimidation factor being next to Mel Gibson at all?
No, I was ready. I was ready to immortalize myself with him on the scene, but
There you go.
unfortunately, that's the scene. We had to cut the scene. But the time I spent with Mel, I talked to him. He was very professional and everything. But yeah, I was ready. I was
You
ready.
ready?
I was ready for that work.
I love that. And I think, this movie has so much talent in it as well, and, a lot of people to me don't give 50 Cent or Curtis Jackson enough credit. He is truly one of the best actors I think out there in film. He's all in every time I see him. So I'm curious, did he have any collaboration on this as well? And did you guys was it a challenge to direct him at all, or did he kind of go his own way?
No, well, the thing is, 50 was very respectful, and he wanted that guidance, and
Awesome.
there was collaboration there, obviously, but it was different for all of us and him to play this kind of a character.
Yeah.
It's a whole new 50 Cent that you're going to experience, and you know, it took him a couple days, I think, to even um, realize, that he's playing the chief of police. And like he was also born, like even I remember when we were in the makeup trailer and, he's getting his makeup done, then he goes in wardrobe, puts on the uniform. And, in the film, he's mainly in the uniform almost the
Yeah.
whole time. And it gives him that, authority. And it's a whole different vision with 50 Cent, where I think he was also kind of taken back by how he was able to handle that character, to the point I can give you one little short story is he got so much into the character in our day 4 or 5 into it when we were shooting the press conference scene. Normally you'd see the real life police chiefs, reading off of notes, or they're at a podium and they can look down and read. But 50 memorized that entire speech at the
Oh,
press
wow.
conference, delivered it every take, and he was very committed to making it organic. And he did. And so he was very committed to making it right, because he knew that it was also a huge thing of the audience seeing him as this authority figure and the chief of police, and he wanted to, play that right.
Vince, I had a curious question for you. So, being that you co-wrote and you're also in the movie, is there any time where, when you're writing a movie and you know you're going to be in it, that you kind of want to put some cool scenes for yourself? Because I'm telling you, sometimes you were intense in some of those scenes when you're coming through them doors and raiding someone. I was like, okay. So, is there any I'm going to make myself look pretty awesome in this scene?
On this one, no, I didn't. But you just gave me some ideas for my future stuff. But I just tried to make it happen. But it was fun. That's all I can say. But yeah, I this time I wrote certain things for me. But as we were going through the script, everybody else had their pen on it too. So I just tried to translate the best I could.
I love that. We do got to wrap up soon here. So I want to ask both of you, what is the one thing you want the audience to take from the film after they watch it?
Same thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they have to be aware of
Awareness.
this global issue with, serial killers, murderers, kidnappers, traffickers. And both of us being girl dads, we want to be able to protect not only our children, but we want others to be able to protect their children, and also victims that need closure could maybe seek, more answers. If someone's being abused or in a situation they need help, they can cry out for help. There's definitely organizations out there that will, and we're working with a few. And Vince, you want to mention?
Yeah, we're working with YDI, Youth Development Incorporation in Albuquerque. It's a place for youth to go for education, for housing, and also they help families. Amistad is a place for runaways. They take you in immediately. It's no waiting for the program, stuff like that. So these are very important programs that we need to raise awareness for, because a lot of people aren't aware of these programs. A lot of people think that you're just stuck on the street until they have divine intervention. No, we have programs that help you off of these things.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in asking for help.
No.
Nope. That sentiment means a lot to me, because I feel like we all struggle, whether in some sort of way, and we do, especially even as men, right? Men have a hard time reaching out specifically, and I think knowing that there's these programs out there for young men out there, and young women as well, that just to get out there and get the help that we need to fix our lives, or maybe not fix our lives, but just do what we can to progress in life, right? So thank you guys for doing that. I'll also tag those organizations in this as well.
Very much.
And if they have tips on any crimes or even related to this case, they can always report it to the FBI or the Albuquerque Police Department or their local police departments, and help with the case, solving the case.
Help fight the good fight.
Absolutely. Rick, do you have any last questions before we go?
Oh, no, I have. I just want to say I appreciated the film. I appreciated the story you guys told and everything that it's intended for. Like I said, I honestly, back in 2009, I didn't even know this was going on until I was made aware of this film. And then I started researching and everything. And I'm like, wow, like this was pretty intense, like what's happening here. So I definitely appreciate the awareness that you guys are bringing with this film.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Gentlemen, thank you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.
All right. You guys have a
Thank you.
great one too.
You
Thank
too.
you.
So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Again, that was courtesy of Uncle Dad Talks podcast. Be sure to go and listen, follow them, check them out. Hopefully we'll have some more collaborations down the road. I actually plan on getting them on the podcast. Hopefully here soon. I think that would be a fun episode, but be sure to go check out Lionsgate's film Boneyard. Like you guys kind of heard at the end there at the interview, for me, it was really just a big awareness. There's a lot of programs out there, especially what they're helping out there in Albuquerque, New Mexico and things like that. Check it out. It's interesting. It very, very much is. And then don't just stop at the film. Continue researching online. Look up the West Mesa murders and see what's going on there. And then again, I know it's not just there. It happens everywhere. I mean, nowadays that's where, I don't know, half of Netflix's freaking thing is all, serial killers, murderers, kidnappings, all this. I mean, people are so interested in this. So again, crime thriller, if this is your type of movie or that type of genre, I should say, this is a movie that definitely check out. But yep, again, this is me, Rick, signing off for Sigma Duocast Podcast. Lionsgate, Boneyard, go check it out. It's video on demand. You can purchase it in Blu-ray, DVD, they still make DVDs. And again, huge thank you and shout out to Uncle Dad Talks podcast for not only being a part of that interview, but also giving me the opportunity to share that interview with all of you guys today. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.